Brian Aungst Sr. served as Clearwater's mayor for 2 terms from 1999 to 2005. During his 6-year tenure, he attracted nearly $750 million of economic growth, particularly on Clearwater Beach. Brian's legacies are too numerous to mention, but just a few are building a sports complex to host spring training for the Philadelphia Phillies and Clearwater Threshers, the building of multiple community recreational centers, and advancing tourism through the county's Tourist Development Council. Brian, it's great having you back on the Kelly Kelly Show.
It's great to be back. Thanks for the invite.
Very good. And this is Frank Hibbard. And now we're going to, no, I'm just kidding.
That's a perfect intro. I can live with that.
Frank deserves, in all honesty, tremendous recognition for being one of the most charismatic leaders in Clearwater's history. That's no hyperbole. He's been the essence of public service as he served for 3 terms, from 2002 to 2012 on the city council, 2 terms of that as mayor. He was elected again in 2020 for another 4-year term, but has announced he will not be seeking a second term. Between those stints, he was chairman of Ruth Eckerd Hall and vice chairman of the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. He's racked up numerous awards and recognitions over the years for his leadership and contributions to our community. Frank, it's always nice having you on the Kelly Kelly Show.
Great to be here.
Good. Is it me again? For those not familiar with Clearwater, let me just say this. It's the 3rd largest city in Tampa Bay. It has a council manager form of government, meaning it's a 5-member council headed by the mayor, who oversees the city manager and city attorney. Clearwater has just under 120,000 residents, with famed Clearwater Beach sort of being a kind of the jewel of the city, you might say. City manager John Jennings oversees a staff of nearly 1,800 employees with an annual budget of about $650 million. An election takes place tomorrow for 2 seats on the city council, and we'll talk about that a bit more later on.
Brian, what was Clearwater like when you became mayor over 20 years ago?
Well, Clearwater was a community that was, in many people's minds, kind of falling behind the times with upgrading and updating things, and it was kind of a caretaker mentality with city government. And that's not speaking ill of anyone, but it's just the way it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in with a platform of being a change agent, and we had the One City, One Future plan, which was being adopted at the time, and Mike Roberta was the city manager, and we started moving things forward right away. And as you said in the introduction, made a lot of progress over a period of 6 years, which we're all very proud of. And the thing about those numbers is that this man over here, Frank Hibbard, needs to get a lot of credit for, because some of those projects weren't quite finished.
Mm-hmm.
And if the wrong people came into office and the wrong mayor at the time, some of them could have been ground to a halt, such as Beach Walk and the bridge, because of the construction, the problem we had when it cracked when we put the thing down, and it took another year to get it finished. And that wasn't going to be stopped. But there are a lot of things that could have been stopped, and Frank had the vision, led his city council, and instructed the city manager and attorney to get this done, even though there were a lot of increases in price with the construction prices going up, especially for Beach Walk. So he deserves a lot of credit for that, too.
Well, you obviously have a vision, in which Frank shares as well, and that's been very good for the growth of the city. Frank, you've weathered some tough times in our nation's history during your 2008, 2009, when you came in as mayor, and more recently with the COVID pandemic. But you've received many accolades for adroitly handling those crises. You've overseen the kickstart, finally, after decades of talking about Imagine Clearwater, actually coming to fruition. You've been here in the chair, so to speak, with a new a new city manager and a new city attorney. A lot of critical things. How have things bounced back of late for Clearwater?
We're doing great. As has been said, the beach really is one of our great catalysts for the city. If you look at Sand Key, Clearwater Beach, Island Estates, they represent about 7% of our land mass, but 40% of our tax base.
Right.
So you have to be aware of that fact.
Sure.
But it doesn't stop at the waterfront. We've been doing wonderful things in our downtown and in our neighborhoods. Certainly going through the Great Recession was a learning process, much more difficult than COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to run again. I wanted to come back for better economic times.
And then we have this handed to you, right?
And then I was elected on March 17th of 2020, which was the week COVID really hit
Wow.
our shores.
Mm.
But we weathered COVID much better than we did
Mm-hmm.
the Great Recession.
Yes.
From an economic standpoint, it hasn't had the impact. 2019 was a record year for our beach, for instance. 2021 broke all of those records.
That's amazing.
And
That's amazing.
2022, we're 40% ahead of the numbers.
40%. That's huge.
So back when Brian and I were
Wow.
both on the council together, nobody would have ever dreamt of hotel rooms on Clearwater Beach going for $1,200 a night.
Mm.
But that is occurring today.
Incredible.
Wow.
Incredible.
Guess we're not going to be on the beach
No,
anytime soon.
no, no.
That's not all the rooms out there, folks.
Okay.
We have affordable hotels too.
We do.
so
Okay.
come on out.
Okay.
There's a wide range of affordable hotels, and and that's a great point that the mayor made, because there were people at the time when we started this that were complaining that, well, we're no longer going to have $75 a night rooms. I'm like, you can't get a $75
No
a
way.
night room across from Busch Gardens
No.
and those lousy hotels over
Try
there.
going to Miami
And
Beach.
on Clearwater Beach,
Right.
if you're looking for that, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Because Clearwater Beach is
Yeah.
one of the gems anywhere in the country or the world.
Yeah.
Family
sure.
friendly and just a great environment.
You can still find some places for less than 200 a night.
You can.
Good places. Some of maybe not directly on the beach, but on Clearwater Beach itself. So, absolutely.
Brian, what was Clearwater like when you became mayor over 20 years ago?
You just asked that.
I did? No,
Yeah.
I didn't. Well, you wrote it twice.
I did.
Look, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
All right.
Now, kids.
All right.
It's okay.
That's okay. He answered
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, okay.
But let's go to the next question, and
Yeah,
that's
You.
all right. Well, last week we had Clearwater City Manager John Jennings on the show, and he told us about the possibility of having a new line of communication and cooperation with the Church of Scientology. What do you each think about that?
Well, I mean, I think that's the only thing you can do. When I became mayor, it's the first thing. Of course, it hit the paper the first day, which didn't make me real excited, but it was necessary that they are here. They're going to be here. They're part of the community, and I was the mayor of all the people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you have to have discussions. Before that, I won't name names, but they wouldn't have discussions. They were okay if they were on a committee that they happen to be hosting, they'd conveniently ignore that, but they wouldn't, they'd walk across the street to avoid members of the church, which is just ridiculous. You have to have discussions. They're here. They're a major part of the community, and we have to work together going forward for the betterment of the community at large.
Yeah, that makes sense. Frank, what's your luck?
Well, we've been asking for properties that are owned either by the church or by parishioners to be developed, that they would be used like any other property. We're starting to see that, so that's a good step. Things aren't healed overnight. There's over a 40-year history within the city, and I think we can make progress. John has a new perspective.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming from outside, so he doesn't bring along
Didn't have the
a lot of
baggage.
the baggage
Right.
that everybody else has.
Sure.
And so from that perspective, we brought him in as a change agent. Brian had mentioned that
point.
term before.
Mhm.
And so we let him run with this, and we'll see what comes of it.
Very
The
good.
proof is in the pudding.
All right. Well, Clearwater boasts 110 parks, 5 libraries, which is the most of any comparably sized cities in Florida. Most people don't know that. Imagine Clearwater is a massive project to totally renovate the invaluable coastal property that is now Coachman Park. It's a waterfront right on the intercoastal waterway that intercoastal divides the city proper from Clearwater Beach. What are the prospects of Imagine Clearwater becoming a magnet for increased visitation to the downtown Clearwater businesses?
Well, I don't think there's any question that it's going to be an attraction not only for Clearwater residents, for our guests, but the entire region.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've seen what's happened down in St. Pete with the pier.
Yes.
And it is beautiful.
Yep.
I think Imagine Clearwater is going to be even better.
Mm.
It really has 3 components. It has environmental trails and a pond and areas that people can walk through. Then there's an enormous playground area, splash pad, interactive fountains for kids, a large green where people can congregate, unbelievable views from our bluff, and then an amphitheater with 4,000 undercover seats with the capacity for up to 15,000 for concerts. We finally are going to fully utilize that 22-acre park, which has been on our drawing board
Underutilized.
for decades.
Yeah.
Brian, was involved from the very beginning, and we've been trying to get that redeveloped. So I don't think there's any question that it's going to be a catalyst for the city and for the entire region.
Brian, your thoughts?
No, I agree 100%. I mean, it's the old movie, if you build it, they will come. It's going to be an economic engine that's going to bring more businesses, more restaurants, more people, hopefully more housing, mixed-use development, all of that into the picture over the next 10 or so years. And it's just, I think it's a great plan. I know the mayor tweaked it a little bit and had some ideas of his own when he came in, and liked some things and didn't like other things. But overall, it's a great plan, and it's I can't wait to go out there the first time and visit it when it opens.
Fantastic. People attract people,
Yes.
and it's going to be I've seen the plans to it. The what is it when they do an animation of it? It's just phenomenal. It's going to be a tremendous attraction.
Well, I think it's very similar to Beach Walk,
Yeah.
which was a similar project.
Mhm.
It had a lot of people that were against it. It was an expensive price tag. It took a very long time to construct, and yet that was the catalyst for the beach.
Absolutely.
It was, and it was delayed, and as I said, the mayor kept it going after I was done because there were lawsuits on the original property that became the Hyatt that Bill Kimpton owned, and he made a person an offer, and that person all of a sudden decided once he saw the plans, well, my property's worth more than that, and anyway, it finally got done. One other quick thing that you mentioned that I think I can't avoid talking about. You talked about all the libraries, you talked about all the parks. It's a wonderful city with great communities. And I know the mayor has been perturbed, I've been perturbed, and other people, when you hear certain people out there talking about neighborhoods are they're ignored.
More green
They do nothing
space.
for the neighborhoods, more green. You can't make everything a park.
Yeah.
We've got so many parks. We've got so many, libraries. We've got rec centers. This is a great community, and these folks following me have done a great job of not just maintaining, but expanding the horizons when it comes to those types of things. So those people that are saying we ignore neighborhoods, that's just bunk.
Yeah, well, there's always going to be criticism. A lot of it not warranted. I lived in the Florida Keys, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Winter Park near Orlando, Tampa, and I can honestly say I've been here 13, 14 years now. It's, to me, the most dynamic city and the most fun city I've ever been in. It really is. So it's a tribute to the leadership, past and present, for sure.
For sure.
So we're going to be back with our guests, Mayor Hibbard and Brian Aungst Sr.
This is the TanTalk Radio Network.
Thank you for listening to the Kelly Kelly Show. I'm Kelly Kelly here with Doug Kelly, and we have Clearwater Mayor Frank Hibbard and Clearwater former Mayor Brian Aungst Sr. with us today. But before the break, Doug asked, what city near Clearwater has mineral springs that some claim to be one of the fabled fountains of youth? And the answer is Safety Harbor. It has the historic Espiritu Santo Springs, given that name in 1539 by Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto. And you've obviously never been there.
I have.
You have?
And I have to dispel the myth. I waded into it waist deep, and the top of me is still 73 years old, and unfortunately the bottom of me is also still 73 years old. So it didn't have any youthful effects on me, I'm afraid to
I
say.
don't know. You've got young-looking legs, so
Thank
maybe
you
it
kindly.
did.
Thank you very
So
much.
here's a quick anecdote on that. I'm sitting with our good friend Al Capone when the storms crossed in 2004, and he looked at me. He opened up the restaurant, went in there, and had some potato chips and a couple of beverages. He said, those pirates knew what they were talking about years ago when they named it Safety Harbor, because the storms never hit. They pulled the ships in there apparently, and the storms never hit here. So
Oh, that's cool side.
It was
Yeah,
interesting.
nifty little town,
Yes.
that's for sure. Hey, so where are we as to negotiations with the Phillies?
We are most likely going to do an extension
Mhm.
for 5 years and then start to work on another 20-year contract. This year is our 75th year,
Wow.
which is the second longest in Major League Baseball behind the Tigers over in Lakeland. And that's only by a year.
And
So-
Brian, you were very instrumental in moving that along in your tenure.
Well, we got the stadium built. We found the spot, fortunately, and worked it out. It worked out very well. And but that was 2003. Here we
Wow.
are now. What, 19 years? Is this the 20th year or 19th year?
19.
20th year.
It's 20.
And it's starting to need a little bit of facelift here and there. It's still one of the best spring training or minor
Yeah,
league parks in the country. People enjoy coming there. But when you have a project like that and it's that old, you need to continue to keep it up.
Sure.
And
Like all
city's
stadiums.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So.
And the Phillies have become a year-round business. They rehab all players. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you're getting rehab, that happens in Clearwater.
Really? I didn't know
They're
that.
also bringing most of their South American and Caribbean recruits to acclimate them to the States. And they're doing all that again here in Clearwater.
Very good.
They are a year-round presence that spend a lot of money in the city of
Oh,
Clearwater.
yeah.
So
Huge.
Bryce Harper gets injured. Last year, JT Realmuto, all-star catcher, got injured. He rehabbed here in Clearwater and then started his rehab with the Threshers.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. And I missed a work session, and next thing I know, we're going to have a new city hall. Can you tell us about that?
Well, we've been talking about a new city hall for 20 years. They were probably
Yeah.
talking about back when Brian was first
Yeah,
elected.
yeah.
That city hall was in disrepair, probably in the wrong place,
Yes.
overlooking the bayfront.
Yeah.
And we have, moved into a office tower before I came back. And now we have kind of settled upon a site across from our MSB, which is our Municipal Services building, and our police department. So there would be a campus-like effect. We believe there's synergies there, and now we're looking at different funding sources for that city
That
hall.
could be like 30 million, right? That's the
It
figure I saw.
could.
could be.
I've always wanted to put it in the library
Yes, yeah,
and share it and probably save about 27 million.
yeah.
Wow.
And I agree with the mayor on that. There's a long story about that that we won't get into right now. But there's ample space in the library, I believe.
Absolutely. All right, well, our city's having a municipal election that ends tomorrow, thank heavens, with 2 of the 5 city council seats up for grabs. Seat 5 is being vacated because of term limits by Hoyt Hamilton, council member Hoyt Hamilton. This is his 8th year, although he did serve previously on the council
You
back
will
in.
have done 14 years.
Yes,
Wow.
and seat 4, where current Councilman Dave Albritton is running for re-election for another 4-year term. Now, our show is noted for being positive and upbeat without the negative rhetoric that's prevalent all over town and everywhere else. So there's many issues, though, that we do talk about, but particularly in this one is there an issue of character that's become very compelling. And I think I can safely say Kelly, myself, Brian, and Frank have endorsed a candidate in seat 4 and 5. In seat 4, we like Dave Albritton for another 4-year re-election for another term. And what reasons do you have for that? Brian, Frank, what do you think about Dave?
I'll start. Frank served with him. Dave, I never served with, but he's a gentleman. He's a class act. I think he's done a great job. He's represented this community extremely well. He does his homework. He takes his time. He's just a ideal city council member, and I'm hoping he gets reelected.
Okay, Frank, your thoughts?
Dave's a lifelong resident of Clearwater, and he has seen the city change and evolve and improve over time. His father was a public servant as a judge. He deserves another 4 years. He understands the character, and I value people who have institutional knowledge. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of institutional knowledge when Bill Horn passed away, our city manager, and Pam Aiken, who was our city attorney. Over 40 9 years of institutional
Phenomenal.
knowledge.
Wow.
Phenomenal.
So that's really important. David deserves another 4 years, and I've come out publicly to endorse him because I know who I want to work with in that seat.
Well, let me mention some other endorsements. Besides Mayor Hibbard and former Mayor Brian Aungst, Senator Ed Hooper, Representative Chris Latvala, Representative Nick DeSegli, Hoyt Hamilton, Councilmember Hoyt Hamilton, Commissioner Kathleen Peters, Commissioner David Eggers, Commissioner Karen Seal, and Commissioner Janet Long. So he has a long list of people supporting him, and
That's impressive.
that is very impressive. And he's got some very aggressive competitors, and it's been a tough race, but I hope he will prevail tomorrow.
Yes, I hope so too.
Yes.
We all also have endorsed Lena Teixeira in the seat 5 race. Frank and Brian, why do you think she would be the best person to serve on the Clearwater City Council?
Well, first, it would be good to have another female on the council. Lena has served on many boards within the city. And one of my favorite sayings that my father used to use is, after all is said and done, more is said than done.
Yeah.
Well, she's a doer, and she has already done a lot within the city. She has passion, intelligence. She has a different point of view on many things. And I think she will be a marvelous addition to the city council.
Okay, very good. Brian, what's your thoughts?
I agree with everything that the mayor said. It certainly would be great to have a female back on the city council, or another female, excuse me. We have one now. And she's paid her dues. She's done her homework, she's paid her dues, she's served this community in a various number of boards, done a lot of things in the community, and she knows what's going on. She ran last time, was unsuccessful, but this time, she's learned from that, and she's really gone out there. She's walked a lot of community neighborhoods, doors, knocked on doors, and I just think she's a really good candidate. She's articulate. She can come to the point very quickly. That's what you need up on the dais. You need somebody who can listen to an argument, that can talk about things, do their homework, and then make an educated decision. And I think she's by far the best candidate in that particular race.
Kelly, your thoughts?
My thoughts are she's got a lot of energy.
No
I
doubt
get
about
tired
that.
just watching her. I could never be on 11 boards
Yes.
and do all she does. And she's been tirelessly out there knocking on doors and sign waving and
Yeah.
holy cow.
Yeah. Well, besides the mayor and the former mayor here with us today, Councilmember Hoyt Hamilton also has endorsed her. So has former council members John Duran and Doreen Caudell. And she's been endorsed by the Clearwater Firefighter Association and Amplify Chamber of Commerce's ClearPack. So, excuse me, she does have widespread support. And she's very, very, like you said, she is an energetic person. She's going to be active. She's got, I think, opinions on all different types of issues, which are level-headed, makes sense.
And
She's
that's
not a
important.
one-issue candidate, right?
You have to be level-headed.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if you don't feel it inside.
Well, and I
you've
think
got
another
to-
key point that I always like to point to, she'll listen. Now, when you're there, I told people, I was still learning the last week I was in office before I was terminated out. And if you're not willing to listen to people, there's always, I say, 3 sides to every story. It's your job to figure out what the really truth is.
Right, in the
And
middle.
I think she's a person that can engage the community, she can listen, and I think she'll make educated decisions based on that. She won't come in with a predisposed or predetermined idea of how everything's going to be and not be able to change her mind, which I think is extremely important.
Absolutely.
It's
Got-
also tough to lose.
Yeah.
I did that my first time in 2001 and came back a year later and won, and then became mayor. And then, been elected mayor 2 more times after that. As an elected official, it is a tough time to serve.
It's a
All
vicious,
those citizens out there,
yeah, it's a vicious
understand
rhetoric.
that this is a very low-paying job, tremendous amount of hours, and you have to persevere. Somebody that is willing to come back 2 years later and persevere through this really has the passion. Otherwise, you would not pursue this.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And I think that really is a wonderful quality that will serve her.
And you have to have a thick skin, and based on what's happening in her particular race, she has developed a very thick skin, which will benefit her on the dais.
Yeah, she's been through the fire for sure, but I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I have a very thin skin,
You do.
and I could never serve in public office.
No.
I mean, I know it. I couldn't take all the arrows in the back. It would
Yeah.
be too difficult, because some criticism is justified, but a large proportion of it is not. It's lies people make up, rumors, and it's hard to live with because you want to defend yourself. But the more you do that with some people, the more you're giving them an opening to keep attacking you. So it's really rough. It's a vicious rhetoric out there. We used to do, when I did radio in Miami, we did call-ins regularly. You can't do that now. At least we don't. People drop the F-bomb. They talk about a subject that has nothing to do with what you're saying, and it's the same people calling back and forth. So it's just a different atmosphere. So I do raise my glass and tip my hat to those who are still willing to serve the public, because it is an honorable thing to do.
It is. Oh, I remember what not many people know it, but it is a part-time job. And what this council
Supposedly.
member gets, supposedly at 21,000, that's very, very low. So a lot of people expect them to always answer their phone. And I think Lena does do that. She, if she's busy in the moment, she always returns calls and texts, and she's very, what's the word I want?
Well, she's very service-oriented
Yeah,
and
yes.
responsive. Okay.
And it's a part-time job, but it's a full-time responsibility, as the mayor can attest. The first year I was elected mayor, I think most weekends we had 6 to 8 events to attend on a Friday or Saturday night.
Ribbon
You ran in,
cutting.
you shook hands, you had a little, everybody wanted you to eat a little bit of something, and if you ate everything, you'd put on 100 pounds. But you had to by the second year, then we probably cut that in half down to 4 or 5 events on the weekend.
Yeah.
And then during the week, you've got to go to this organization and that organization.
And if you don't show up, they're offended, right?
Exactly. And
And
it's
do
difficult.
radio shows.
Oh, God. Well, that's a huge honor. That's a huge honor. Unbelievable.
And along those lines, I wanted to say, you have people get up in city council and they will tell you off. And you're very impressive because you just have that calm demeanor and you listen to whatever everybody has to say with, an open mind, open ear. And
Yeah.
That's not easy
that's
to do.
necessary.
I had my moments. I shut the cameras off on one activist one time.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
But
We've had some real colorful characters come to the microphone, that's no doubt.
That's for sure. If you're a registered voter in Clearwater, you can either still drop off your mail ballot in Clearwater, if you have one, at 315 Court Street, room 117. You can also vote in person tomorrow from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at your election precinct. If you don't know your precinct, go to votepinellas.com and follow the prompts.